So I'm honored to be here with Dr. Douillard, one of our original columnists. Thanks for coming back. One of our helpers was looking for you before the show. She said, what does he look like? I don't know if he's here or not. And I said, Mr. Clean. So I'm sure you've never heard that before.
Never.
Yeah, and I've never heard Robert Redford. I get that all the time. It's really bothers me. Paul Newman, Robert Redford.
Yeah.
So you, in a way, are a different kind of Mr. Clean. Instead of toxic chemicals, you're talking about Ayurveda, the ancient sort of Indian science of health. Is that how you would describe what you practice?
Yeah, absolutely. Taking the ancient wisdom and then proving it with modern science and making it, accessible.
So that's interesting. Does Ayurveda have a lot to teach science and vice versa?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so much of the research that's been done now on herbal medicine comes from these ancient herbs. I mean, I read journals a lot, and it just blows me away how much current research is being done on herbs that were used and proven thousands of years ago. It's happening. It's real. They knew something back then, and it's being proved today. And that's what we write about in our newsletters, constantly taking these really amazing herbs and saying, hey, look, they knew something, and it's being proved by modern science, and it really does work.
So you've been blogging up a storm on elephantjournal.com. You recently had a blog about protein, and is there a deficiency, or are we getting too much, and that sort of thing.
Right.
Maybe I just became vegan on January 1st, and I was vegetarian for many years before that. Is it true that Americans generally do get too much protein? What's the whole Ayurvedic view of veganism?
I think that in general, I mean, it's risky to get too much, and it's a little bit risky to get too little. And I wrote the article because I had so many patients who were vegetarians, or vegans, or raw foodists, or they were vegetarians and now they eat a little bit of meat, and they weren't doing well. They were crashing and burning. They had blood sugar issues.
They were yelling at everybody about how their diet was better than.
There were a little bit of that too. Absolutely, And they would, finish their day exhausted. Their blood sugar would crash. Or, they're sneaking jelly beans and dark chocolate in the closet, with the
beef jerky.
Well, they didn't know they needed the beef jerky, but some of them actually, instead of the jelly beans, if they had the beef jerky, they would have maybe felt better. Because a lot of folks see in Ayurveda, which is really interesting. If you're a vegetarian, and your blood sugar is a little wacky, and you love chocolate, and you have candy stashed somewhere in your house or in your glove compartment, it's a red flag. If you have joints that ache a lot, particularly in the winter, because your joints are loaded with these fluids, your synovial fluids are loaded with protein. And the first place your body goes to get the protein, if you don't get enough, is it takes it from your joints. So your joints can ache. And
the third one is if you have a whole bunch of joints stashed somewhere.
That would be the third one. And then the fourth one would be, do you have a fourth?
No, that's all I had. I was working on that one for a long time. And listening. So people just having like zero energy, not being able to make it through the day. So in Ayurveda, what was interesting was there's an Ayurvedic recipe for protein deficiency, which is don't get scared. It's 4 ounces of red meat every day for 2 weeks. Huh. And that was what the article was about, which is a pretty controversial look. Right.
But in Ayurveda, they would say that that's a medicine. It's a very acidic protein. It drives into the tissues really well. Vegetables are alkaline. They cleanse. And the more acidic something is, the more it penetrates. Right. That's why squirrels eat nuts in the winter, because they want to insulate. They want to penetrate. If they ate broccoli, they'd freeze to death, and we wouldn't have probably very many squirrels. So they eat more proteins that are higher acidic nature. So if you really want to build your reserves, you eat red meat or buffalo, because it's the most acidic. And when people do that, I mean, I've really seen so many miracles. It's not that we should eat red meat for the rest of our life, but it's a medicine to get you out of trouble.
But if I may, from a vegan point of view, if I say, well, I don't want to mercilessly kill poor animals for my own selfish pleasure,
right.
like
and
other
why,
people.
And that's why it's not.
But the question is there
an alternative,
a vegan way to get that good stuff?
I gave options in the article. There was that one option which got a lot of attention and a lot of feedback. And I got a lot of darts thrown.
What is that option? Well, it's the internet. You get darts thrown if you put up a picture of a balloon or a
no kidding.
kitty.
Well, you could do, like a good pure whey protein powder shake or a pea protein or hemp protein powder shake, a little shake with every meal. Not that that is the meal, but a little more protein with every meal. And that can,
But what about beans and nuts?
well, those things hopefully are a given. Most people, to be a good vegetarian, I really believe you got to cook at least 2 hours a day. And most people don't do that, so therefore they don't get enough protein, so they start craving sugar and candy and dark chocolate and coffee, and then they start getting high and low blood sugar. So then we, as a culture, said, hey, you guys are all having hypoglycemic issues. If you open up the textbook of medicine and you read about hypoglycemia, it says eat 6 meals a day, which is what America's being told they should do, right?
What's hypoglycemia? I'm sorry.
It's like your blood sugar is high, and then it goes low. So like you start your day with a cup of coffee, and then it crashes, and you need another cup of coffee, and then it crashes, and you need dark chocolate, and then you're doing that all day long.
Sounds familiar.
Then you need a glass of wine at night to kind of relax and recover because you've been doing this all day. So that's what hypoglycemia is, and what people do, what we've done as a culture is we're being told, this is really terrible, to eat little meals all day long.
And that's bad.
It's really bad because if you want your body to burn fat, because everybody wants to lose weight, but fat is your calm fuel, stable fuel, sleep through the night fuel, detoxify fuel, make you feel good in your skin fuel. And if you eat meal, snack, meal, snack, meal, snack, meal, snack, when are you going to burn the fat? If you want to burn your fat, you got to eat breakfast, nothing till lunch, and in between that you burn your fat. Lunch to supper, burn fat, supper to breakfast, burn fat. But if you're giving food all the time, the body gets conditioned to get fed every 2 to 3 hours. And then God forbid, I'm supposed to now sleep 9 hours at night. The body goes, I can't do that. So people don't sleep at night. They get anxious, they get worried, and that creates an unstable blood sugar. So you have to create stability.
Right.
Meals, not snacks.
Right.
The old-fashioned way.
Why do you have to create stability? Just because long-term for your health and mental awareness is better?
Every time the blood sugar crashes, that is an emergency response.
Right, but then you just drink more coffee and you're good.
And then it goes back up, but then next time when the coffee starts to wear off, then it crashes down here. Then you need more coffee, right? And then when it goes up, it comes crashing down. And then,
But what is wrong, on a serious level, what is wrong with that long-term? Because that's exactly how I've been living for...
Every time you go down here and get injected to go back up, you're borrowing money from the bank. Every time you go, sometimes you buy $5, sometimes you borrow $10, and eventually the bank's going to go, hey, Wayman's coming, and he never pays it back. So don't lend him.
This is getting a little personal. You obviously
don't lend him any more money, right?
I'm now current on my loan payments, and
so you don't want to go into debt.
right.
And otherwise, bad things can happen. It's like the mafia. You don't
right.
pay back the debt, they take out your knee.
Right.
In Ayurveda, they take out your
The Ayurveda
liver.
mafia.
Yeah. Don't let it go there.
Yeah. So talking specifically about coffee, that was ironically the one blog I wasn't too speedy to settle down and read, because I was really curious about how does someone like you advise to drink coffee? And you started off, which I loved, by saying studies have shown that if you drink 10 cups of coffee or 16 cups of coffee a day, you get all these great benefits. And then you said, okay, let's come back down to earth. Obviously, drinking 16 cups of coffee is not good. So when, we only have a minute or two left, when do you advise and how much coffee? If I'm going to keep drinking coffee the rest of my life, when should I drink it and how much?
With all the studies on the pro side, on the con side, it's very confusing. So what I always do is go back to traditional cultures, always give a perspective based on history. And most people historically would drink a cup of coffee after the meal as a digestive agent. So after a nice large meal, have a little cup of coffee, and they would give a little espresso, not a 20-ounce cup. And they would drink that, and that would act as a digestive agent and stimulate better digestion.
So you grab a Frappuccino to go, and you, after your meal.
Yeah, it could maybe, that would be stretching it a little bit, but the idea
Where's
is
the applause sign when you need it?
But the idea is that coffee is a stimulant, and it's going to drive your body into exhaustion. If you find yourself needing it for a bowel movement, for energy, for vitality, it's a red flag. A little coffee occasionally after a meal, it can act as a nice digestive agent. I think it's okay.
Great. And you could do that a couple times a day, or just you're saying like one cup after lunch?
Occasionally would be like, a couple times a month or a week.
Okay, but realistically. So we actually forgot this with the earlier segment, but we have been live streaming this to tens of thousands of people. And
so the first one's from
we
Jen.
have two questions, if I may.
Please.
So one of our writers and editors, Jen Cusano, has a question. What is some essential advice to begin a healthy diet? Say 2 things that anyone could do right now.
I think the most important thing, the very best thing you can do is eat 3 meals a day. And then when you sit down and eat your food, take time and relax and eat it. It's the when you eat and the how you eat. Those are the two most, we in America are all totally overwhelmed with what we should eat, what we shouldn't eat. But I think we should shift the gear to being how you eat and when you eat. 3 meals a day, no snacks, and sit down, and when you eat the food, relax and take time. That is a huge, huge difference.
No TV.
Yeah, no TV, no clicker. Like in India, they eat with their hands, right? So when you eat with your hands, it's really hard to like use the clicker or flip through a magazine. So that's a great strategy, in fact. I did a video on that one, and I showed people how to actually eat with their hands. And the idea is that when you do that, you really have to do nothing else but eat.
Right. And then
It's a
you
great
enjoy
concept.
the food more, right?
You
And
do.
you eat less.
You do. You eat less, you relax, and you're not racing through your meal. It makes a difference. It's hard for our culture to stop and actually do that, but
Yeah.
it pays dividends. It
It'd be
really
hard
does.
for me to do.
Yeah.
And then the next question we have from Kate Bartolotta. How can vegans have a healthy, nourishing diet during winter from an Ayurvedic perspective?
Well, winter is cold, right? It's cold and a dry season. So nature harvests warm, heavy soups and stews and warmer foods. So it's really important in the winter to cook your foods and to cook your vegetables. So if you're a vegan, you want to think, hey, in the wintertime, I'm going to make sure I cook my vegetables and I cook my beans and I make more soups and stews versus cold raw food salads. Because if you're a cold person with a cold body type in the cold season, eating cold food, your nervous system is going to become very, very cold and very, very nervous and very unsettled. Where if you give the body warm foods and heavier nourishing foods, higher protein, higher fat foods, which are naturally occurring, that actually gives the body a much more stable nervous system in the winter. And that's actually when we need it, is in the winter, because we rebuild our nervous system in the winter. And a lot of us are cleansing right through the winter, and that's not going to last many winters in a row.
Well, thank you very much. Dr. Douillard, it's great to have you back. Let's have a loud... Woo! And the information will be on the screen, but how to subscribe to your newsletter, you can say that live, and your website, lifespa.com, right?
Yeah, we put out a video newsletter every week, and so there's a video and a reference article every week about different health topics, and you can sign up for that at lifespa.com. That's my website, and check out the archives. There's the archives of all of our newsletters on protein deficiency and coffee and lots of really interesting topics.
Check all that out on Elephant, his articles on Elephant, because we
too,
need the traffic. Go to his website for... No, I'm kidding. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
It's a real
you.
honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.